Hi, I'm Keith Knight,
I'm Jamie Knight.
and this is Nighttime.
Our kids are in bed, so we're here with you.
So some of our friends have asked us, how did you get into real estate? Like, why of all your different options did you start investing in real estate? It's not really a common thing for maybe people your age, right? Because we started when we were a little bit younger, maybe a decade ago.
Yeah, 12 years
And
ago we got married.
yeah,
We had six-figure loan debt, student loan debt,
yeah,
and we knew that I was going to be home with the kids. And then shortly into our marriage, I got pregnant and we still had all that debt and we needed to cut back to one income.
yeah, right. Because you were working. We're both early in our careers,
Mhm.
and so we're going to go from two entry level positions with and student debt burden and everything else that goes along with just living on your own to a single entry level income earner with still all the same amount of debt and one
And a
more amount.
baby.
Yeah, and medical bills for the birth. Oh yeah, yeah. Right. So we're like, what are we going to do? Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
we had to figure something out to not be drowning. And I think we also reached a point where we wanted to grow wealth, not just stay level.
Right, because our plan wasn't to, it's funny, our plan wasn't to have one kid, right? I mean, when our first date, we talked about from our very first meeting, four kids,
Hmm.
and now we have five, so I think we overdid ourselves. But anyway, so yeah, so this whole idea of like real estate, my boss at the time took us out to lunch, and he said, "Hey, if I was going to do this all over again, my first property would be a multifamily property." And so he kind of started to plant that bug. Um, and it actually makes a lot of sense. So if you look at the numbers, by far the greatest investment for creating millionaires is real estate.
Mhm.
So I think the quote out there is something like 90% of millionaires created their wealth through real estate, right? And so if 90% of millionaires are doing it, and I'm trying to grow my wealth, it's probably a good place to start, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
that's I think that's what got us into it. Um, was that conversation with my boss, and then the idea that, hey, this is how a lot of people are generating wealth. And one of the reasons for that is uh, because the asset class itself is actually really low barrier to entry. And what I mean by that is you can get into real estate without being a qualified or accredited investor. And so basically all that means is you have access to this wealth generating tool, and you don't need to have $1 million net worth. And if you're single filing on your taxes, you don't have to have $200,000 of income. Or if you're filing joint with a spouse, you don't have to have $300,000 of income, right? Those are the things that are going to make you be an accredited or a qualified investor, which will give you access to more risky assets. If they hit, they can grow really well, and like yeah, you can multiply your money several multiples, but you have to be a qualified investor to have access to those. Real estate's not that way at all. Anybody can have access to real estate. There's a bunch of different ways to get into it. You can get into real estate with no money. You can get into real estate with a little bit of money, or if you got a little bit more, that's fine too. Um, and there's a lot of different angles you can come at it. We went probably one of the more traditional routes, which we'll talk about in another episode. What's commonly referred to now as house hacking.
Mhm.
But there's all kinds of way you can get into the space, and the whole thing is over time you generate wealth, and the sooner you start, the more time you have. So we were actually pretty fortunate that we started relatively young, and that we had those mentors to say, hey, you should look at this. This is an option that you might be interested in.
That's true. In a book.
And a yes, and a book. So it's funny. It's like all the real estate podcasts. Somehow this book comes up sooner or later in one of the episodes. So, Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you haven't read it, go read it. It's a good book. It's a really easy read. It's super quick. This is like the $3 version. If you don't want to spend $3 on it, go to your
We were
library.
probably at the beginning of our journey when we bought the $3 version.
It's true. We were. Um, that was like ground zero.
Yes.
$3 version of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah, really, for us, it taught us how to like look at money in a totally different way. You'll hear that from anyone who reads that book, and you may pick up some other things out of it, um, but it's worth the read. If nothing else, it'll help motivate you. I know it helped motivate us. So that's really why we did it. High level, young family starting out, saddled with all kinds of student loan debt and other debt, and thinking, okay, well, how can we change the trajectory of our future, right? How are we going to create wealth for our family? that's going to allow us to spend time together, that's going to allow us to do things. And real estate is really one of the best asset classes to do that. Not financial advice, but it's working for us.
Yeah.
All right. So in the next episode, we'll talk a little bit more about the financing options if you're going to go maybe a more traditional route like we did. But for now,
I think that's it.
good night.
Good night.